Okay, so you think Amazon is a store, a very big one with a very fast truck. Except in 2025, Amazon brought in $716.9 billion in revenue, and the division that actually sold you your paper towels and your phone charger was, by a wide margin, the least profitable part of the company. The single most profitable division brought in less than a fifth of total revenue and produced more than half of all company profit. So here's the real question. If the store isn't what makes Amazon rich, what is? The naive story is that Amazon sells things cheaper and faster than anyone else and wins on volume. That story used to be true. It is no longer the whole story, and it hasn't been for years. What Amazon actually sells is access to inventory it doesn't have to own, to computing power other companies can't build themselves, and to attention it auctions off one search result at a time. The retail store you see is the front door. Behind it are three separate businesses wearing one name tag: a logistics network, a cloud computing utility, and an advertising agency. Two of the three barely look like retail at all. Start with the origin, because the origin explains the obsession that followed. Amazon began in 1994 selling books online, for one unglamorous reason. Books had a nearly infinite catalog and a stable, predictable shipping profile, which made them the easiest category to prove that people would actually buy things sight unseen over the internet. The founders' early strategic instinct was blunt: get big fast, reinvest everything, worry about profit later. That instinct hardened into a permanent operating principle still quoted inside the company as day one thinking. Treat every year like the company might still fail and never let bureaucracy slow the customer experience down. It sounds like a slogan. It is also the reason Amazon has plowed tens of billions of dollars a year into warehouses, delivery stations, and server farms instead of paying it out to shareholders. The company chose to compound infrastructure instead of banking cash for 3 decades straight, and it chose to grow into categories a pure bookstore never needed to touch: groceries, pharmacies, streaming video, even its own line of hardware, each one another reason for a customer to never leave the ecosystem. That choice shows up most clearly in how Amazon decided to own things. Most retailers with a national footprint franchise it out, let independent operators run stores, take a royalty, and offload the real estate risk. Amazon almost never does that. It owns or leases the vast majority of its fulfillment centers, delivery stations, and last-mile vans directly. And even the drivers who show up at your door mostly work for contracted delivery service partners operating under Amazon's rules, using Amazon's routing software, wearing Amazon's branding. Why refuse the easy money of franchising? Control. When you own the warehouse, you control the promise. 2-day, 1-day, same day. And that promise is the entire product. A franchisee optimizing for their own store's costs would eventually say no to same-day delivery on a low-margin item. Amazon's whole model depends on nobody in the chain ever being allowed to say no. So it built its own trucks, its own planes, its own delivery network, spending decades and tens of billions of dollars to make sure that promise was never someone else's decision to break. The same instinct explains why Amazon spent $13.7 billion buying Whole Foods in 2017. It wasn't really buying a grocery chain. It was buying several hundred physical buildings in dense, wealthy neighborhoods that could double as same-day delivery hubs. Real estate the company would have taken years to build from scratch on its own.
Now walk one order through the machine, because this is where the real math lives. Say you buy a $30 kitchen gadget from a third-party seller using Fulfillment by Amazon. Amazon collects a referral fee, typically around 15% of the sale. Then it collects a separate fulfillment fee for picking, packing, and shipping the item, often another 20 to 30% once storage and handling are included. Many of those same sellers also pay Amazon directly to advertise their own listings, just to be seen above their competitors in the exact same search results. Added up, and industry surveys of active sellers now put the total cost of selling on Amazon at somewhere close to half of what the item actually sells for. Amazon doesn't have to own the inventory, absorb a bad batch, or guess demand. It collects a toll at every stage of a transaction it never has to risk its own capital on. Third-party sellers now account for roughly 62% of everything sold on the platform, and Amazon's seller services revenue from those fees alone topped $172 billion in 2025, larger than the total revenue of most Fortune 100 companies, generated almost entirely from other people's inventory. Not every item on Amazon is priced to make money on its own, though, and that's worth pulling apart because it's the clearest window into how the company thinks about a single sale. Devices like the Kindle and the Echo speaker have, at various points, been priced close to their own hardware cost, sometimes below what similar gadgets sell for elsewhere. That's not generosity. A Kindle in your hand is a permanent, quiet sales channel for ebooks, sold under a proprietary format that doesn't easily move to another device. An Echo speaker in your kitchen is a voice-activated entry point into Amazon's shopping cart. And once you're in the habit of saying reorder paper towels, checking a competitor's price stops being a habit at all. The device is the loss leader. The relationship it buys is the actual product. That logic runs through the checkout experience too. Free shipping thresholds are set deliberately at a dollar amount just above what a typical single item costs, nudging you to add one more thing to the cart to avoid a shipping fee, which quietly raises the average order size without ever touching sticker prices. That fee structure and that pricing psychology are one layer of the moat. The next layer is Prime. A Prime membership does not make money on its own. The subscription is priced to be roughly break-even against shipping costs, sometimes a mild loss. Its real job is behavioral, not financial. Once a household is paying for unlimited free shipping, every purchase decision changes. Checking other retailers stops feeling worth the effort because the marginal cost of buying on Amazon is already sunk into the membership. That single psychological shift is what economists call a switching cost, and it's worth more to Amazon than any margin on a single order because it turns Amazon from a place you shop into the place you default to. Prime membership feeds a flywheel that Amazon's leadership has described openly for years. Lower prices and more selection attract more customers. More customers attract more third-party sellers. More sellers mean more selection and better prices, and the added scale lets Amazon push its cost structure down further, which funds the next round of low prices. Each loop reinforces the one before it. It's a genuinely elegant mechanism. It's also the reason Amazon has been willing to run its core North American retail segment at wafer-thin margins for years at a stretch. The retail division isn't there to be the profit center. It's there to be the flywheel's engine room.
The actual profit center sits somewhere the customer never sees. Amazon Web Services, the cloud computing arm born quietly out of Amazon's own internal need to run its website at scale. Amazon realized in the mid-2000s that the computing infrastructure it had built for itself, storage, processing power, databases, could be rented out to other companies who didn't want to build their own data centers. That side project is now the backbone of an enormous share of the modern internet, renting server capacity to everyone from Netflix to Adobe to the US government. In 2025, AWS brought in $128.7 billion in revenue, about 18% of Amazon's total sales. And AWS operating income alone was $45.6 billion, which is roughly 57% of the entire company's operating profit, generated by a division that accounts for less than a fifth of the company's top line. Retail sells at grocery store margins. Cloud computing sells at software margins. Amazon simply owns both and lets one subsidize the ambition of the other. That subsidy is now flowing somewhere new. Amazon has been pouring tens of billions of dollars a year into AI infrastructure and its own custom computing chips. And by the company's own account, demand for large AI customers has been outrunning the physical server capacity it can install, even at that spending pace. If you're getting something useful from this so far, a like and a subscribe help keep these breakdowns coming. Now, back to Amazon. There's a fourth business layered on top of all of this, and it might be the quietest one: advertising. Every time you search for a product on Amazon, some of what you see is paid placement, sellers bidding to appear above organic results for the exact keyword you typed. Amazon's advertising revenue hit roughly $56 billion for the year, growing faster than either retail or cloud. And it carries margins closer to AWS than to the warehouse floor, because there's almost no marginal cost to selling an ad slot Amazon already owns. Put the four pieces together: fulfillment fees, Prime subscriptions, cloud computing, and advertising, and you get a company where the part that looks like the business is actually the least profitable piece holding the other three together. The segment math makes this even clearer once you look outside the United States. Amazon's international retail division, everything outside North America, has posted losses or near break-even results for years, even as revenue there grew to $161.9 billion in 2025. Building a fulfillment network in India, Brazil, or the Middle East from scratch costs the same tens of billions of dollars it cost to build one in the US, except the company is years earlier in the flywheel, fewer Prime members to spread the fixed cost across, thinner seller ecosystems, and infrastructure that in some regions barely existed before Amazon built it. North America carries the company's retail profit. AWS carries the company's total profit. International is still largely an investment the rest of the machine is funding, on the same logic that funded North America 2 decades earlier. Lose money now, own the infrastructure later.
That machine has an underside, and it's documented, not speculative. In September 2025, Amazon agreed to pay $2.5 billion to settle a Federal Trade Commission lawsuit alleging that its checkout flow used manipulative design, what regulators call dark patterns, to enroll customers in Prime without clear consent, and then made cancellation deliberately difficult. The FTC's own count, presented at trial, put the number of what it called non-consensual Prime enrollments above 35 million over 7 years. Amazon did not admit wrongdoing, and it disputed the characterization of its practices, but internal communications produced at trial reportedly described unwanted subscriptions in blunt terms even among Amazon's own staff. Separately, the FTC and 17 state attorneys general have an ongoing federal antitrust case alleging Amazon illegally maintains its marketplace monopoly by punishing sellers who offer lower prices elsewhere, and by running a pricing algorithm, internally referred to in FTC filings as Project Nessie, that the agency says raised what U.S. households paid by more than $1 billion. Amazon has denied the allegations and called the government's theory of harm novel and mistaken. That case is scheduled for trial in October 2026, and as of now, no verdict exists. The record does not yet show how it resolves. The warehouse floor carries its own version of that tension. In 2022, workers at Amazon's JFK 8 Fulfillment Center on Staten Island voted to unionize, the first successful U.S. union election at an Amazon warehouse. Amazon has contested the result through legal channels, and years later, no collective bargaining agreement is in place. The company has said its direct relationship with employees serves them better than a union would. Organizers have said the pace and surveillance built into warehouse work is exactly what a union exists to negotiate over. Both things can be true about the same building. The fulfillment network that makes 2-day delivery possible is also a workplace whose intensity is itself part of what makes that promise affordable to keep. Which brings you to the competitive landscape and why so few companies have managed to challenge Amazon on more than one front at a time. Target and Walmart can compete on retail price, Microsoft and Google can compete with AWS on cloud infrastructure, Meta and Google can compete for ad dollars, even entertainment isn't safe from the same logic. The $8.5 billion acquisition of MGM in 2022 wasn't really a bet on winning the streaming wars outright, it was another lever for Prime retention, giving subscribers one more reason never to compare prices elsewhere. Almost nobody can compete on all 4 fronts simultaneously, because the moat isn't any single piece, it's the way each piece funds and reinforces the other 3. A retailer without a cloud business has to make its margin on the box. Amazon doesn't. So next time a package shows up at your door 2 days after you clicked buy, remember what actually paid for that truck. It probably wasn't the $30 gadget inside the box. It was a server rented to a bank on the other side of the country, an ad slot sold to a seller you never noticed bidding for your attention, and a fee quietly taken out of a small business owner stranger before either of you saw the receipt. That's the machine holding together as of this research. Whether the antitrust case reshapes any of it is still an open question, and one this video can't answer for you. There's a written business guide linked in the description if you want this broken down further. If this helped you see how the machine actually works, like the video and subscribe to Terminal Value. Thanks for watching.